Welcome everybody, welcome back to a series of nakshatras and beach mantras with Achalaji. Welcome Achalaji, namaste, welcome back. And today she's going to teach us about the beach mantra for Swati Nakshatra. So over to you Achalaji.
Thank you, Beeja. Let me just share my screen. Okay. So when we proceed to Swati Nakshatra, it's actually the first nakshatra of Manipura chakra. And I particularly like very much all the nakshatras that are here. And perhaps when we'll be going farther, you'll be also able to see that all these nakshatras that are connected with Manipura chakra, the solar plexus chakra, in a way they are telling a story that really starts in Chitra and finishes in Purvashara. And perhaps we'll talk about it a little bit more when we will reach Jeshta, which is actually the culmination of Manipura chakra and its energies. But just in the beginning, to understand what is Manipura chakra, the solar plexus chakra, it's connected with the element of fire. So it will have anything to do with fire, which is, again, action, which is dynamism, which is energy, which is our ability to deal with our life force and to use our life force in a constructive way or destructive way, because both qualities are always present. It's also about our passion and also ability to focus on something. So all these qualities will be resembled by Manipura chakra, and all these qualities will be shown in different ways throughout the nakshatras. And it's also very important to know that we see that Manipura chakra has 10 petals, and each of these 10 petals stands for actually one type of prana in our body, so one type of life force. And if we look closer at it, we'll see also some logic behind it and how it is actually connected with the nakshatras. So let us proceed to the first nakshatra of Manipura chakra, which is Swati. And its mantra is Dham. So here's the mantra. Om Dham Swati Nakshatraye Namaha. Om Dham Swati Nakshatraye Namaha. Om Dham Swati Nakshatraye Namaha. So this is the mantra for Swati Nakshatra. And we will see, I managed to find only two verbs that actually have their root in this Beej mantra. First is Dham, which is to sound, and then is Di, which is to fly. And both of these verbs actually have to do something with fire, because after all, the Swati Nakshatra is connected with Vayudev, with the deity of wind. So it is also very deeply connected with our life force. And it also represents our very first prana out of 10 of them in our body. So it's important to understand that there's like just one prana, one main life force, but it has like 10-fold division. And each of the 10 pranas in our body has some different action to do. Some of the pranas make us see, some of them make us inhale, some of them make us exhale, and so on and so on. And particularly Swati Nakshatra is connected to the very first prana vayu, which is inhaling, which is breathing, which is respiration. So prana vayu. And this is like the making connection with Swati Nakshatra. And I noticed very much with many Swati Nakshatra natives that it's extremely actually helpful for them to, in a way, manage with the energy of the nakshatra and turn it into a more positive manifestation through pranayamas, actually. So actually through control of the breath. And it's really, really beautiful and really, really powerful for anybody who is, with any planet really in Swati Nakshatra, especially if this planet is, let's say, not so happy there, like Sun, for example. And it's very interesting also that Swati is also ruled by Rahu. And Rahu is also, if we have a look actually at all the Rahu nakshatras, they are somehow connected to Shiva, to Rudra, all of them. And on the other hand, if we look at Mars nakshatras, which are just before Rahu nakshatras, they are all connected also in some way to Shiva, but in different way. And if we, for example, look at the picture of Rudra, so Rudra, like in his form of a hunter, really, he has in two of his upper hands, in one of the hands he would hold a deer, in another one he would hold a damaru. So these are actually virtual symbols of Margashirsha and Dhanishta Nakshatra. And it's very beautiful because I always somehow see the nakshatras like they're all connected. And all of them are telling something about each other. And we know from the Navatara system that always when there is one nakshatra, it will find its, let's say, wealth, its solution, and its wisdom in the nakshatra that is right next to it. So like all these Mars nakshatras, they are very much, they have a lot of this life force, a lot of energy to take action. But actually the Rahu nakshatras are very often the ones that actually give the goal, which is very important to note here also. And even although this is the nakshatra of Vayu, and when we think about Vayudev, he is also, let's say, without any shape, without any form, and even the Shakti here is scattering actually something, which doesn't sound very much like focusing on the goal. But still, I noticed that all the Rahu nakshatras, they give this sense of focusing on the goal, because Rahu is obsession after all. So it's about focusing and fixing ourselves on something. Of course, it can manifest in a negative way as well, but very often it can be positive also, if we know how to use this properly. And I believe that this particular nakshatra, Swati, it reveals to us that really when we are controlling our breath properly, and when we are breathing properly, when we do Kriya Yoga or any sort of other pranayama or meditation practice, we really get the stronger feeling of goal in our life. It's much easier to focus, because when our breath is calm, our mind is calm. It's just as easy like that, as that. Whenever our breath is calm, our mind will also cool down. And we can notice it easily. Whenever we are nervous or irritated or very excited also, our breath is not normal anymore. It's very hectic. It's very unrhythmic as well. So that's some sort of message that I connect with Swati Nakshatra particularly. And when we see now the energies that are the most connected to Swati Nakshatra, we will see only lower chakras here. No higher chakras are here. So basically speaking, just Swadhisthana, Muladhara, and Manipura, and Anahata chakras. So all the higher chakras between root chakra and heart chakra are very active here. And I believe that this is so because this is also the very nature of prana, of life force. So it's very primeval in a way, right? It's very physical. It's very much in the body. But again, when we know how to use this life force properly, it can also take us beyond that. But first, we need to somehow deal with that lower energies, control our breath, and then we rise up. So I think that's all I have on Swati Nakshatra, Dr. Paiji. I will handle it to you now.
Achala-ji, very beautiful points. One of the things that I came across when you brought the Beeja mantra, and then you talked about sound and flying. Is that correct? If you can go back to the slide there, where you're talking about, dam and di, to fly, to sound. Now, this nakshatra, Su-ati, Swati, it is Swati. Su means sweet, Ati means to be. So it's a very sweet nakshatra, even though you might say it's ruled by Rahu. And these two things actually of sound and flying are connected with a deity or goddess called Saraswati. Saraswati. So she has the lute or the veena that we call, that brings out the sound. And you can see her, she's always mounted on a Hamsa, which is a flying swan. So the fly and the sound is something which is very commonly connected, and many scholars believe that Swati is very strongly associated as a secondary deity to Swati is Saraswati.
Wow.
Okay, to sound and to fly. And that's why you see in her name there is Swati in her name. And Sara. Sara means also about, Vak. Vak is giving away, speech. Swati is flow. It flows. Very beautiful language flows from her mouth when she says. So that's why Saraswati. And one more thing, what I what you beautifully explained about uh, Swati Nakshatra is about its connection with Mragashira, and you're saying about Dhanishta, because Shiva, sometimes you have seen him holding a deer in his hand, and he has a damru in another hand, isn't it? And what I've seen all these, strangely, that's how I've seen most of the Mars ruled nakshatras, as always Ardhanarishwar, especially for Margashirsha and Chitra. I've seen them as Ardhanarishwar because, you know, two padas fall in the in Venus's signs, and two padas fall in a Mercury sign. So I see them as Ardhanarishwar, half male and half female. And when you go to Dhanishta, Dhanishta is nothing but an energy that I see is Harihara. Harihara means half Vishnu and half Shiva. Harihara. And that's why you see the two symbols which are associated with another Mark Nakshatra is, you have the Damru, and you also have the flute of Krishna. So these energies, that's why you see most of the Mars, Dhanishta is strongly connected to music. And then this nakshatra is also, Swati is very strongly connected to music. And Vayu is supposed to be the king of the musicians, the Gandharvas, of the musical instruments. Because, flute and all those acoustics, they actually work on Vayu, blowing the breath. And and then you see, what you see beautifully is a Swati is Bharani Nakshatra. Bharani is the womb where the mother's, the placenta of the mother. And once your umbilical cord is cut, then you become completely independent. You become free. When you take the first breath, the first vayu, the first prana, you become independent from your mother. You're not dependent on your mother. It is Apa Bharani. Okay, and then Pradvamsha Shakti here. Pradvamsha is to scatter like a wind. So which means you become completely free. Freedom. You are no longer dependent on your mother, which is your seventh house, which is Bharani. It's the womb of your mother, where you're dependent on feeding on your mother. Your breath, your food, everything is dependent. You're dependent. And Swati means you become independent. That's why you are taking the first breath, the first prana. Why you take?
Really...
So these are
six. Even when I think about Saraswati, it's very beautiful that you said, Dr. Paj, that she always flies on Hamsa. And
Hamsa.
if we look at Hamsa, right, the swan, and we turn the syllabes here, we will have Soham, right? So we'll have the mantra actually for the breath, that the breath itself is doing. So this is weird.
And then Hamsas, apparently, why we call most of the learned, enlightened masters as Paramahamsas. Paramahamsas. Hamsas means, Hamsa is supposed to be one bird which has the ability to, if you mix water and milk and give it to her, they can actually, through the membrane in their mouth, they can actually separate the milk from the water. Otherwise, it's very impossible for anybody. And that's why Paramahamsas are those, given the Vedas, given the scriptures that they have, they know the knowledge of the scriptures, they are able to extract the honey, they're able to extract the milk from the mixture of milk and water. That's why they call us Paramahamsas. And Paramahamsas, all Paramahamsas have the blessings of Saraswati. Because she is the one who rides on the Hamsa, besides her husband. Her husband sits on the lotus, Brahma.
Yes.
So she's the Hamsa, she's the Vak Siddhi. So this nakshatra of Swati can also give you a lot of people who might be interested in, all of these. And Rahu nakshatras, when I see all these Rahu nakshatras, they they don't most of the stars of the Rahu nakshatras. Spika, sorry, Spika is Chitra. Arcturus is with this Ardra, this Satabisha. All of them are away from the elliptic, the zodiac belt. They don't fall along the zodiac. That's why they are called as Rahu. Rahu means foreigner, we say, because they are away, they are outcast. That's why
This is
most.
very.
So it's astronomically also you can prove that all these stars, they don't fall along the elliptic of the zodiac. They fall a little bit away from it. All these
And this is
stars.
really beautiful because when we think about it, really about this Rahu being kind of this outcast, right? The foreigner being a little bit away. And Vayudev actually himself, he was the one who is the diplomat through the gods. So whenever the demigods, they needed to deal with demons, so do this, let's say, unwanted job, right? Because nobody wants to go and deal with demons, but they would always send Vayu, please go and do that, go and balance that. So it's also in a way for us, when we work on ourselves and when we actually try to control our breath, really the breath is actually bringing this balance between this demonic and, let's say, sattvic and divine qualities within ourselves, dealing with them. Because breath is dealing with everything, with spiritual world and with material world. It doesn't judge in a way, right? It just gives fuel and power to everything, to every activity that we are doing.
And also, Achalaji, this nakshatra, I believe, some of the scholars believe it's also the birth nakshatra of Hanuman, Lord Hanuman. And because he's Pavana Sutta, born from the Vayu. Pavana means Vayu, or the deified wind, or the deified air. And they believe that this is his thing because that's where he gets the energy. And that's why he's also called as Prana Devata. Is also called as Mukhya Prana. Mukhya means the main prana, which comes from Hanuman. And many seers, once they have taken samadhi, or after they're born, they left their mortal body. It's the statue of Hanuman which is kept on their samadhi.
Wow.
Because he will never, because he's Chiranjeevi. Hanuman is Chiranjeevi. Chiranjeevi means he's an immortal god. And so those souls are kept immortal by his presence on their samadhi. Many samadhis you find of seers, you have Hanuman. He is empowering their soul. It will never deplete the energy of the soul. And that's why you see this nakshatra is connected to the Manipura chakra, the solar plexus. That's where your prana.
Yeah, because even Hanumanji, he is actually incarnation of Shiva. So again, we have this
exactly
Shiva energy here. Same like in Ardra.
Exactly. It's the same. You look at all the stars. Here it is Arcturus in Swati, and you go to Betelgeuse for Ardra. All of these stars are not falling in the zodiac belt. They're falling a little bit away, and that's why they are connected to Rahu. Okay. So anyway, most of the Rahu nakshatras, they are also connected to the caste called Butcher. They're actually called not Butcher. Butcher is the English word. In Sanskrit, they call it Ugra. Ugra is somebody who can become fierce and good action. So anyway, these are we can go on Swati. We can talk a lot about them, but I think the beauty of this discussion was about the mantra and how these mantras very strongly have an association with the nakshatra themselves, and some deep stories about them. So thank you very much, Achalaji. It's always a pleasure to have you, and discussing with you, opens up so many doors in our mind. So it's your grace. Thank you very much for coming down and always sharing whatever little you know with all of us. So always grateful to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Namaste.
Namaste.
Namaste.